And we're live on the all-new, all-different, all kind of sort of different Metal Lab. I am joined this week by Mr. Tom Kerr.
Hello, everyone.
Mr. Mike Payne.
Hello, everyone.
And Jay.
Hello.
And as always, guys, we are brought to you in part by HCRealms.com, your one-stop source for everything Heroclix. Check out the forums, follow what's happening in the game, use the unit section to track your collection, check out news on your local rock events in the rock section, and of course, check out the shop with that little shop tab on the top and get some cool Clicks gear. And while you're doing that, put in the coupon code MARRIED at checkout for 10% off your purchase. Goes to help kind of give us a little bump in the channel too. We can get some of that stuff to possibly share with you guys. We're also brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com, home of the Apex Insiders. For $3 a month to get information from some of the greatest minds in the game. They're always the first to post results from major events from both WizKids and The Rock. So check them out. MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. So it's been a slow week for myself and Amber. We took a week off from a lot of stuff, though some big things are happening this week, and they're going to be starting tomorrow. So really excited for that. So like I said, guys, the last week was going to be our week. This week, back in action. All kinds of stuff planning on being filmed from the Married with Clicks setup. But from the Metal Lab, Tom, how's your week been?
Oh, it's been wonderful. It's been not terribly Heroclix full. I was really sorry to have missed episode 100, but thank you for reading my note. And you guys did you guys did a wonderful job, and really massive congratulations to all involved, but especially to you, Jason. I couldn't say it on air last week, so I'm going to say it on there this week. Congratulations for guiding us through 100 episodes, and here's to 100 more.
All right. Thank you very much, Tom. Mike, how was your week?
My week has been tremendous. I ran a 1,000-point tournament last Wednesday at the Wizards Cache. I guess I'll just throw it in here. This Wednesday is the last Wednesday tournament at Wizards Cache. So come on down. It's going to be 300 Modern. Really simple. No modifiers or anything like that. But yeah, that's pretty much my entire Clicks week was just last Wednesday doing a 1,000-point Battle Royal. And playing a whole ton of Colossals and having some fun and watching Glenn use Felix Faust and Solaris to clean all of our clocks.
Who needs a clock? All right, Jay, how's your week been?
It's been good. I went to that same 1,000-point event. Did not do well because Glenn steamrolled everybody.
He really did.
Blast you, Glenn!
I've been putting together my travel plans for the 3 WizKids Opens that I'm going to. So that's good. Mm-hmm. And it's been good.
All right, awesome. So in addition to all the relaxing I did this week, my head is in the game getting ready for the WKOs, which are just around the corner. Holy smokes. If you actually do the math here, guys, the November 5th WKO is not this Saturday, but next Saturday.
It is.
Holy hell.
Like, we just recovered from the rock worlds, and then here we go right into WKO season. Busy season for competitive players, and I'm really excited about it, to be really honest. There's no such thing as too much Heroclix, in my opinion. Speaking of too much Heroclix, let's get into the news. And the news is very wild, courtesy of the Joker, even. And we start, of course, with our first of the previews this week, Our Man. He's a Justice Society pass and scientist keyword. He's got a trait, a simpler time. Once per turn for all characters with this trait, if a character that uses the JSA team ability replaces defense value with Our Man's, that character can use probability control, but only if the attack roll has a 6. And then he's got a special movement power in his first 2 clicks, top of the hour. Give Our Man a move action, and if he is adjacent to blocking terrain and not holding an object, when you do, after actions resolve, Our Man is holding a standard light object. Super strength for 4 of his 5 clicks. This last click comes with regeneration. He's indomitable. He's got the JSA team ability. Tom, take it away on Our Man.
He's one of my favorites of these low-cost JSA guys, I got to say. For 25 points from 5 clicks is already good value. Considering you've got the regen at the end to make it last, it's all the better. And considering you're indomitable, so you don't have to push when you're getting him around the board, then so much the better again. Obviously the JSA can help him to improve upon his rather poor defenses potentially. But even without it, I love the fact that if nothing else, he can carry your hindering terrain around the map for you. And for that matter, he has the ability to create objects, so he's not even pulling from the other objects you may have in your force. When we go into limited, we often find that we're building teams with all kinds of guys at low points that are crammed in there to fill various different roles. The fact that he can give you hindering terrain where you need it, and the fact that you could play special objects with him and still be able to give him objects to use for himself, it's great. I really like him. I think he's cool.
All right, Mike.
I disagree. I find him largely underwhelming. The one positive that I see here are his keywords. Past and scientist, aside from Justice Society, are great. Makes him slot into a lot of different teams pretty easily. I mean, I do like the idea of somebody who can create more more special or more objects in general. But I find him, for the points compared to some of the others, especially one that's particularly fast, largely underwhelming. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
All right, Jay?
I strongly dislike him.
Really?
My main problem with him is that he just doesn't really do much for the points, because no move and attack, really. I mean, he gets the move action, sure, but then he moves up, he's in close combat, and unless he's next to another JSA character, he's just sitting there waiting to be hit. And from his not-so-great 17, he goes down to 16s and then 15 with mediocre stats. So he looks good for the points, but I just think that he's just going to end up feeding your opponent 25 points. I guess the simpler time trait is decent, but it's not even unique to him, as we'll see, so that's not even much of a selling point necessarily. He looks better than he'll perform, I think, and if he's the only possibility to throw it on the SEAL team, I guess just do it, but I don't really see him pulling his weight.
I think if there's one thing to be said about Iron Man, and I think I can see why Tom likes him, is it's the thug effect. When you see the thug on the board, you don't want to spend the actions it takes to kill the thug. It takes 4 clicks to kill a thug. It takes 5 clicks to kill this guy, which is more effort than 25 or 10 points is worth. And I think that's going to draw a lot of attention away from Iron Man, which means he's probably going to get a little bit more lasting power. Or you're going to get somebody try to throw 4 damage at him, leave him at that regen click, and then has to decide, do I waste a second action to kill 25 points, or do I let that 25 points possibly stick around on the board and find myself with a wasted action already in the first place? I think that's a lot of the effect that Iron Man can have on the board. Yeah, his stats aren't great, but, I mean, there's nothing wrong with a meat shield, in my opinion, and an indomitable meat shield as well. That means you can move twice, not have to worry about having to give your opponent 1 damage away. I can see why Tom likes it. I can see why he's not particularly well liked as well. But he falls under the liked category for me. But he falls under that, doesn't take up much of my large swarm of figures team. So we move next. Same day, same team. The Sandman is our next preview. Mm-hmm. Sandman has the All-Star Squadron, Justice Society, and past keywords. Real name is Wesley Dodds. He comes with the simpler time trait. Once per turn for all characters with this trait. If a character uses JSA team ability to replace its defense value with Sandman's, that character can use probability control. Excuse me. But I believe the attack roll has a 6. Almost got there. When Sandman hits with an attack after action is resolved, he may counter a power on the target until that character clears action tokens. He's got stealth and willpower. Otherwise, and he has that special power on all 4 of his clicks. Comes in at 30 points with the JSA team ability, 5 range. Mike, take the lead here on the Sandman.
Once again, largely underwhelmed. I love the keywords. Well, in particular, the past keyword, which works really well with Tom's recent, very successful competitive team. The special damage power, in particular, requiring it to hit in order for it to work. I mean, it just doesn't feel quite there. It's 1 less click compared to a 25-point character we just previewed. Overall, I'm not really that impressed with it. I'd love to see it in action. I'm sure somebody will make it work, Tom, or Jay for that matter, who loves the JSA. And I don't know. What do you think, Jay?
He's better than the Hour Man, and I think having that kind of power with range on a character like this is not bad, especially considering it's lengthier outwit and can kind of mess up your opponent if they really need that power back, so they want to clear, or they just have to keep on going without that power. And on a theme team, willpower for taking theme prop tokens is good. And it's neat that he gets an 18 in the middle of the dial, so you might hit him for 2 given the nature of the low point characters in the set, and then find him even harder to hit. Still with stealth, so harder to pick off. And his stats are more reliable than the Hourman, I think. And I mean, yeah, it has to hit, but he still has a decent 10 attack, and hopefully this will be a set in which getting theme is possible in sealed. So you can see him hitting, and even if he doesn't have to damage, just has to hit. So if there are bigger characters to hit in this set, he can cause them problems. So I think he's decent.
All right, Tom?
You see, I disagree here. I like Hourman quite a lot better. I like having the extra click. I see both of these guys as guys who are more likely to take damage and eat up your opponent's actions in killing them than really be terribly useful as an offensive force. But that distraction can be worth their points if they're forced to deal with these people instead of other more important guys in your force. And as I see it, I look at Hourman as a guy with 6 range anyway. He's just got to be holding the object to do it. He has the extra click by comparison. On the other hand, Sandman is a stealth shield, and stealth shields are great at low point. I guess my heart's with Mike on this one. He just seems underwhelming since it's hard to imagine him being quite as good as his points justify in a world with thugs and even Hourman by comparison, unless he's able to get that hit, and I just can't rely on it.
And also, to clarify, for when I say underwhelming, both of these characters are actually pretty good. I just find them underwhelming in comparison to what's out there.
No doubt.
Yeah. I think if there's one thing to take away from in a sealed environment, because he's got the stealth, and we haven't seen a lot of ignores hindering for line of fire purposes with this set, that does add a lot to his value. But at the same time, he's 5 more points for 1 less click. That 18 defense with the JSA team ability, if you have the right characters, can go a long way. I'm definitely on the middle with Sandman. I'm not super impressed with him, but I'm not going to say he's a pile of crap because of the fact that you can throw in that counter power if you happen to hit somebody with him, right? So I do like him, and we'll see how he goes overall. Next up, chill out! It's Mr. Freeze!
Oh, no. Here come the Arnold references. Oh.
Hey, chill out. Nice to meet you. He's got the Arkham Asylum, Gotham City, Underworld, Armor, and Scientist keywords. He's got this trait, try not to shatter my frozen friends, boys. When Mr. Freeze hits with a range attack, give each hit character an action token, and after action resolve, attach the ice wall marker to one hit character unless it's attached to another character. What does an ice wall marker do, you say? As long as the ice wall marker is attached, that character can't be moved or placed and modifies its defense by -2. Remove it at the end of the character's turn and deal that character 1 penetrating damage, or give any adjacent character a power action to remove the ice wall. And he's got a special defense power he has on his last 2 clicks, back to refrigeration. Mr. Freeze can use toughness. At the beginning of your turn, heal Mr. Freeze a number of clicks equal to 3 minus the number of adjacent opposing characters. And his Frozen Aura, which he has on his last 4 clicks, so everything but his first 2. Adjacent opposing characters modify their attack and damage values by -1. Jay, what do you think of Mr. Freeze?
I think he's fantastic.
Oh, he's 90 points of 5 range. Go ahead, carry on.
He's just a great little package of just so much synergy in the dial, where you have this really good range powers with the Psychic Blast and Energy Explosion. Funnily enough, Energy Explosion looking like it'll be more useful in this set with probably not many reducers. But once he hits, he does the thing where they can be moved or replaced, and they either have to waste another action to free them to make them not take the penetrating damage on top of the damage from being hit, or they let them take the damage and make that character possibly not do anything. He's also good for helping other people follow up because he gives them -2 defense. And the combination of the damage power and the defense power discourage opposing characters from being next to him. But if they're not, then he'll heal more. But if they are, they get -1 attack and damage. And then he has reducers all the way down. And this is a set where your attack and damage values are already going to be low. So if he's surrounded by 2 damaged characters, they won't be able to damage him at all with that -1. So for the point investment, his range looks a little bit not ideal, but the sidestep should make up for that. The Babin enemy sharing an 11 for only 90 points will be very helpful, especially with all the extra effects we should be seeing with the superior foes equivalent. And he's just a great little package, and he's only not even a 30 points. So I think he's fantastic, especially in sealed.
All right, Tom?
I agree with pretty much everything that Jay said. I'm not overwhelmed by him. I must admit, I'm not really looking at these guys through the lens of sealed at this time, and we will be later. I think in sealed, he is quite good. In the constructed environment, it's hard to put him up against some of the other guys we've seen around his point value. But I do think he's really cool, and Jay really hit the nail on the head when he said that it's a dial that synergizes well within itself. The dial really works well for everything. It's smartly constructed in terms of the placement of the powers and the way in which they don't interact with one another and the way the ice marker interacts. So I kind of wish the last 2 clicks were not quite so barren. But since you'll be largely either healing off of them or dying when you hit them because your opponent doesn't want you to heal off them, then I guess that's a pretty minor point. I think he's very good.
All right, Mike?
I concur with Tom, as usual.
Who concurs with Jay, incidentally?
I'm afraid my condition has left me cold to your pleas of mercy.
This is what your sealed environment is going to look like when somebody pulls a Mr. Freeze, by the way, everybody. Just preparing you now.
In this universe, there's one absolute. Everything freezes. It's like, that's not even true.
So, yeah, thumbs up for sealed and thumbs down for constructed so far. I kind of like him with 90-point Magneto from the X-Men because it gives him ESD, which allows him to get a little bit closer or people actually have to come to him in order to actually be able to hit him most of the time. I don't know. Beyond that, I think I'm done.
Yeah, I got nothing else to add to that. That's all good, guys. You did a good job on that one. Next up, and this one, courtesy of Instagram. Actually, I'm going to be using an HC Realms post courtesy of wonderful Mr. J that I got off to the side. Here we go. All right. So this is Firefly. He comes in at 75 points. He's got 5 range with 2 targets. And his keywords are Arkham Asylum, Gotham City Underworld, and Armor. He flies. And he's got a special attack power on his first 3 clicks. Napalm. Just napalm. Firefly can use Energy Explosion. When he hits with a ranged combat attack, after actions resolve, place a fire marker on a hit opposing character, removing it from anywhere else. At the beginning of that character's turn, deal it 1 penetrating damage. When that character moves through water terrain or clears action tokens, remove the fire marker. And then, he starts with first 2 clicks are running shot, goes into some sidestep for movement, first click invulnerable, toughness to energy shield, has that special power in his first 3 clicks, and then the last 2 clicks are psychic blast. What do you think of Firefly, Tom?
I'm always wary of characters who need their team ability working correctly to really be effective, and I would put Firefly in that camp. For 75 points, those are some pretty underwhelming attack values. Now, that is the reason why the team ability is there, but it also is a bit of a crutch for team building with him. And so, while I do think that you probably could, again, he can carry people, so you should have no trouble getting somebody next to him to pump up that value as long as there is somebody who can do so feasibly. But it means that not only are you investing 75 points in Firefly, but you're forced to invest in someone that can make Firefly a little better. And as it is, his limited range in conjunction with the fact that his values just don't blow me away, I mean, I'm not that impressed. I want to like him more than I do. He's not a terrible discount version of Chase Sunfire, but Chase Sunfire is so much better that I see no reason why I would ever want the discount version. So it's a pass for me.
Yeah. Mike?
Well, pretty much the same exact thing that Tom would say there. I'll give it 2 thumbs down.
Jay?
It could be a decent sealed play depending on how many other flyers there are and how good the Babin enemy effects are. I mean, you're going to get other characters with hopefully 10s at least, and his damage output could be pretty good with the energy explosion, the napalm marker, as well as just hitting your primary target for 3 damage. He looks like a perfectly fine investment for the points, assuming you can build a decent team around him.
Mm-hmm.
Lots and lots of 5 range.
Yeah, it seems to be the high range for this set, or the high end of range for the set.
Or just the range period.
Yeah, it could be. So next we move to Geoforce. This was previewed this morning. He's got the Justice League, Outsiders, Politician, and Ruler keywords. He's got a trait, Lord of the Land. Geoforce can use Barrier, but only as a free action and only to place one barrier marker. These markers are not removed at the beginning of his next turn. After actions resolve, if the map has more than 4 such markers, remove one of them. He's got a special movement power on his middle 3 clicks. Geoforce can use Charge, Force Blast, and ignores blocking and breaks through blocking for movement. He's got 7 range with 2 targets, the Outsider's team ability, and he comes in at 160 points. And I wanted to take the lead on this one because this figure specifically gives something drastic away. And part of it, this figure and Talon tell me two things. One, the points formula has drastically changed.
Yeah.
And 2, that points value is exponential, is some level of exponential or multiplying growth when multiple powers are on the same click. Because if you look at characters that we've seen, like the Flash or these other Justice Society characters we've seen, they're not heavy on the powers in their dials. They're not super stacked as far as powers are concerned. Their dials aren't particularly massive, but they're pretty sizable for their point values, 5 or 6 clicks. But then they're not really stacked with powers. But then you see characters like Talon and then Geoforce here, and we start to see that, yes, something new is going down with the points formula. So if we look at this character compared to figures in sets prior to it, he looks like a total pile of doo-doo. And that's part of that is that we know the Outsider's team ability is historically expensive. Not very many low point characters come with it, and if there are very many, like the lowest point character we have is the Nightwing, and that's not a lot of clicks to go with it, and not exactly super potent clicks to go with it either. So I think Geoforce gives away a lot about the point formula. He's not a great figure. Let's just get that right out of the way. The barrier is cool, and if you get him on a map like the WizKids Office, you can definitely drive your opponent very bonkers. But because he's a unique, because I believe that's what the silver ring around the super rare symbol means. Means you're only going to get one of them on your team, and he's 160 points, more than half your force now for about 7 clicks. It's not super expensive, but at the same time, it's giving away a lot. And that's really the rant I wanted to go on about this figure is. I think if this is the point formula going forward, I'm okay with it. But this is going to be part of that whole every time the game changes. It looks like when they do these balances backwards, it's a waiting period to see some figures get good. And this is going to be one of those figures that we're going to wait to see get good. But now that I'm done ranting about that, Mike, what do you think of Geoforce?
I mean, the one scenario, he's not fantastic. The one scenario I can see here where he's somewhat possibly competitive is as a round table call-in guy, or not call-in guy, but a round table generator, like the guy who calls in people, because he can continually, on certain maps, keep himself actually safe. Using that free action barrier, and he's 160 points. So you can bring in some serious muscle to really do some damage. But overall, I'm fairly underwhelmed with this character. I do love Outsiders. I love the Outsiders team ability. It's almost probably my favorite team ability. But overall, I agree with Jason. I mean, he's got leadership at 160 points, so that's useful. Neat, cool.
Jake.
He just looks so overcosted right now.
That was part of my rant.
You see the top dial, and it's like, oh, that looks pretty darn good. And the trade is really good, too. And Outsiders is always good. But then just you get the 2 clicks of Impervious, and then that toughness just, oh, my God. He'll get killed so easily. It seems like there's a fair amount of penetrating damage or precision psychic blast in the set that's going to be happening. So, plus it's a Batman set, so there's going to be Batmans, and those Batmans are going to pack out wit, and without that protection, as well as no willpower for that point investment. It's just between the Outsiders and the trade, it feels like they didn't really know how to cost his dial, so it leads to just grossly overcosted stuff like this, and I don't think he's playable.
Tom?
I don't have much to add. I will simply say that your mini rant / observation is quite true. There seems to be a recalculation at work, and it is easier said than done to say that we'll just adjust our thinking around the new calculation because we can't look at the set in a vacuum. and we're aware of what we've seen for these kind of point levels up to this point. So it's possible that this piece will reveal something more that we don't recognize as we see the rebalancing of the game going forward. But at this point, it's hard to give them a go.
Yeah. All right. So that said, I'm still excited for the set. I mean, even with the couple duds that we've seen, I think the set's gonna be a ton of fun on its own. And then the idea of these extra little guys for myself, I'm looking forward to my little swarms, my Zergling rush, as it were, coming back. Recently, actually, Amber showed me something on Imgur. Somebody had made Devil Dinosaurs tokens with Zergling or Zerg characters in StarCraft.
That's great.
Like, the Homicide Crabs were Banelings, and the Hate Bears were Zerglings, and the Rockabilly Modocs were Hydralisks.
Was it a Rob Fop thing?
I don't know. Amber showed me the link. I didn't really find it elsewhere. I thought it was clever, and if I knew who the person was, I might politely ask or beg for my.
Give a nice little shout out there to Rob Fop, who runs the Cyborgosaur like custom stuff on Facebook. There, he makes cards and tokens and things like that for people. That's great work. So check him out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people out there doing stuff like that, and it's really cool. And I just trade them a little figure for a little bit of a cool custom stuff is always worth it. And I know we deal personally with Big Bully Games. They make the action tokens that you guys receive for the patron program.
Yeah.
Speaking of the patron program, check us out at patreon.com/Heroclix. If you want to support us directly, if you want to use those advertisers, we're looking at a really awesome week for the patron for one of our patrons coming up next month. As one of our patrons is at the $35 level, and they will be the first ones to test the new Twitch stream. So we're really looking forward to getting that up and running. But that said, I know we called this the all-new Metal Lab, and there's a reason for that. We called that this episode that. We're trying a new thing. And this week, we're starting with segments for each of the guys on the show. We're going to try to streamline the conversations. It's not a bunch of us talking about the same thing over and over again. You don't get a lot of repetition. Somebody's going to introduce a topic. We're going to add our little bits to it. But for the most part, everybody's going to get their chance to focus the show. Now, of course, mine is the news. I get to lead the news and rant as much as I want about characters like Geoforce. But on that note, everybody's going to bring their own thing. It might not be the same consistent thing, but it may end up being a different thing each week depending on what we see. As of course we've seen in the past, we've seen Tom's charts. We can expect that on a regular basis or a semi-regular basis. But Tom is the one bringing the intellectual game, as it were. But we're gonna get to his segment later. While Jay deals with his camera issues, I think we'll lead right into Mike. And Mike is gonna introduce, or he's gonna break down for us his segment, The Breakdown.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike, and I do the breakdown. So generally speaking, this is about team archetypes. We deal with three main archetypes when we're doing team building. That's one-man armies, as we all know, tent poles, and balance teams. One-man armies are simple as it gets. They're as simple as it gets. Simply think of Trinity War Martian Manhunter at 300 points. Just big bad boom, comes in and wrecks shit in general. Then we move on to tent poles, which consist of higher point characters with a pit crew. This archetype works particularly well with the round table, as it allows you to pump out larger characters and expand the general cost of your team, I suppose. Then we go with balance teams, which are essentially comprised of two figures with nigh equalish points that carry similar workloads. Now, there's one team in particular that I wanted to focus on this week, and that was Ed's winning team. Ed Arnold Berkovitz won the Rock World Cup. Was it last week, or was it the week? Yeah, it was last week.
Amazingly, yeah.
It wasn't that long ago, really. I don't know why it feels longer. I've already started talking to him about his bystander token for next year, and it's pretty hilarious. So anyway, his team is comprised of, let's see here, Felix Faust at 80 points, the Quinjet at its lower point dial, which is really unusual because usually we see it at its full points, 140 points plus 5 points for the resource style, with Jarvis and the Ultron 18.2 drone and the Ultron 6 drone at 30 points. Both of those valued at 120. So in this case, it makes the team fairly Nick Fury proof. Like there is no one highest point character, which negates his ability to increase his attack and damage values. And he has the Atom at 15 points, so an actual full version of the Atom and not just a call-in this case. Although he does have the Atom as a call-in as well, which is pretty common. We have seen a lot of double Atom teams in that way. He equipped the ID cards that he equipped were worth 45 points. He has the Shield level 7, 2 of them, sorry. The Atom, Nightwing, Green Arrow, Superman, Batman, Black Canary, and Booster Gold. The general, beyond getting into the individual pieces and what they do individually, this could be classified really simply as a balanced team. Because you have two characters that are essentially around the same point value. But if you really look closer at it, this is more of a tentpole still, because Felix Faust is just there for shenanigans. He's there to stop your opponent from doing anything major, or even just disabling them entirely, as annoying as that Felix Faust is. Can't believe they brought him back. Anyway, so he basically stops or prevents any major damage and things like that just via his shenanigans, while having the Quinjet start to move along and pump out guys, along with those Ultrons also bringing out ID characters and ramping up. Overall, a fairly complex team. It's a little bit of inventory involved in it, but awesome. But obviously, it's awesome. Did really, really well. In fact, it won the whole event last week, and so that's really my first crack at this whole breakdown thing. That is a balanced team that's really a tentpole. It's a masquerading tentpole in that particular case.
All right.
You guys have anything else you wanted to add to that in regard to the team?
Tom?
Not offhand. I think that you summed it up quite nicely, and I agree that its functionality is tentpole oriented. The ID cards are allowed to do the offensive work, but because the Quinjet itself is there to soak so much damage, and in a way everything else can fall away. As long as Felix Faust and Quinjet are there, then he's assured of a big, hefty bounty of points. Then I think you summed it up quite nicely. Well done.
All right. Yeah, and from what I heard, there's a big control element to the team that it's because you can carry the Faust forward with the Quinjet before taking that free action. It's just absolutely insane what you can pull off with that thing. So kudos to Ed for coming up with that. It's quite the controlling element, and I've played against Ed before. He's a very methodical player, and if he can control the game, he will control the game. He's what we used to call in Magic a blue player, where he came to play and watch you suffer for it.
Blue-white,
actually,
maybe.
I'm hoping to get Ed on the show a little later on for Champ Chat. I might start bothering this week or next week about it. I haven't been in a rush because it's crazy getting back from Atlanta, getting back into the swing of things after one of these big things. Jay, do you have anything you want to add about Ed's team in regards to what Mike has said, or?
I pretty much agree. It's pretty balanced for you have the Quinjet doing what it does, while Felix can be a tertiary attacker and just runs interference and shenanigans, and you kind of have like almost two different teams doing two different things, but still playing off each other and letting each other do what needs to be done. And again, surprising to see the 70-point Quinjet as opposed to 140, but it worked.
Yeah, the battle's a lot less dense, right? It's not nearly as long.
No.
Put it up here, and let's see. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 clicks long. 9 for 70 points is insane, though.
Yeah, that's really
it's absolutely insane. And it brings its own support in this particular case, right? 18 defense to start. It's still very formidable.
All right. So with that said, Jay, you are the rules guy when it comes to your little thing on HC Realms, and you had a little addition to, or an addendum to that this week as excuse me, as we're introducing the rules for our own show, especially with the JSA coming around the corner. Let's talk a little bit about that team ability.
It is Defenders and or Sinister Syndicate and or Batman Enemy just for defense, so the exact same wording. And As we know, they've been getting similar effects as superior foes, so I just wanted to go over some rulings with that particular team ability and just clarify everything before these figures start coming out, especially because sealed and people might not know all the exact rulings. As soon as I just get my link open to the rules forum.
So now the rule you're going to be specifically stating is in regards to Sinister Syndicate, but it sets precedent, right? Yeah,
it's the exact same wording. It's just except for the defense word, but it's otherwise completely the same. So this particular ruling, the question is for a superior foes trait, you have one character. You have two characters next to each other. You have one with an 11 without the superior foes effect, and then you have Beetle next to them with her 10. So the question is, can you replace her 10 with the 11 and then borrow it back to get the effect of superior foes because you are still borrowing her value? And then the answer to that is yes, you can. So the same would apply to the JSA. And we're seeing a lot of them with 17s, and then we saw an 18 with the Flash. So if you want to get the Flashes, or if you want to have the Flash get somebody else's ability, you can lend his 18 out to them and then borrow it back again. And it also works with chaining because you could just, let's say you have the Flash, Hourman, and Sandman, and you want to get the 18, but you don't want the Flash's effect. You can still do that even though it's not the printed value. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, I guess, also applies to the Batman enemies because they have also similar effects. So it's just good to keep in mind when you're looking at all your figures and then you realize you can just chain the highest values and still get the benefits of those effects.
Interesting. I want to put a little rainbow over my head. The more you know.
Yeah, I actually managed to use that at a Team Worlds at the Rock this year, where I was having Speed Demon lend out his 11s to other people to then borrow it back to, let's say, take knockback from Beetle. So it was actually good to know because it actually happened. It came up.
Yeah, I didn't know that at a recent Winamap, and one of our fans actually played me in a when I was playing the double Doc Ock, and he was playing Doc Ock and Speed Demon, and I didn't know that would work, like that you would be able to borrow the probability control. So I actually told him he couldn't do that because of the way that it was worded and the way I was reading it, and he kind of went with it. So sorry about that.
Did you win? Did you win the match?
I did.
Okay, well, that's the important.
Keep in mind now with where
that's
all
the important part. Yeah. Terrible. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy, but I do apologize. That was my fault.
Yeah, it was. What were you saying, Joe?
I was just saying it's also good to keep in mind that, especially with these effects now that they're making with that Kingpin, where you don't actually have to be adjacent, so you can just chain and borrow like mad, regardless of the adjacency. Also wanted to point out that you can't use those effects if you're not attacking, so you can't borrow Overdrive's attack value if you're not attacking, just to use Sidestep. And also, I just learned that it's not you don't get to pick and choose when that happens. It just happens that first time, regardless of if the effect's actually used, which is not ideal with Speed Demon, because apparently even if you don't use the prob with Speed Demon that first time, it has still been used up. I didn't know that one.
That's weird.
It is odd, but apparently that's how that works. So keep those rules in mind when you're playing Sealed with this set and all the chaining and borrowing and daisy chaining that you're going to be doing.
Yeah. All right. On that, we're going to move next to Tom's segment as Tom adds the intellectual level to this show. And as it were, this week, Tom is running what Tom's debates, we're going to call it.
Sure.
Or maybe we'll call it Kerr debate. No.
No.
Mastercom? No, wait, hold on. Wrong debate.
Anyway, much wrong.
But
you need a powdered wig for this.
Take us through this here.
Well, I mean, it's a pretty what I was thinking was that a lot of the show, a lot of times on this show, we have a tendency to put in a subject, a hot button topic of HeroClix out there for us, and we all respond with our own opinions. And certainly there's something to be said for everyone's voices being heard, and we all appreciate people who speak out in the comments and the chat to give their opinions on matters and ask questions to us about it to start the conversation, stimulate further talk about things that matter to us as HeroClix players. But the tendency with us, because of the fact that we are all fairly nice, kind people, and because we're all Canadian, I think it's in the contract, we have a tendency to either agree with each other, or when we disagree, we immediately jump to agree to disagree. We rarely debate over any real subjects. We rarely argue for one point or another, because we're not the sort of people that like to really go aggressively at one another. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to be able to set up a forum whereby we could actually go back and forth on an idea and debate it head to head, so that we could really get the crux of an issue that grips the HeroClix community, with both sides represented without anybody having to worry about their feelings being hurt. And so that's why we're going into a debate segment. And in this segment, then one member of the lab here will take one opinion, and another one will take the other opinion whenever there's sort of a two-sided argument to be had. And each one will get a chance to present that side of the argument. It may not necessarily be the one that they personally believe in, but they are tasked with trying to prove that their side is the right one, and that their side has greater validity. The structure of it will be each person will get 90 seconds to state an initial argument, and then each person will get 60 seconds for a rebuttal and 30 seconds for closing remarks. So it's a quick and down and dirty thing. But the idea is to let these issues breathe and let both sides speak for themselves and kind of knock each other around a little bit, and then you can make your own decisions on what you think, those of you watching and listening at home, because frankly we all have an opinion on a lot of matters that relate to this game, and all of our opinions matter, but we should give different options the opportunity to breathe and get their due in the public forum. So the immediate segment that we're going to talk about right here, spiraling out of the final match at the Rock World Cup, a lot of people are talking about how games should end. This is an old argument within HeroClix, but it's been given new life, as it often does after tournaments in which things come down to the last possible second. And we're going to take two sides to it. Mike is going to be defending the last action side, which is basically the way that the system currently works, which is when last action is called, then you are completing the currently declared action or finishing your action, etc., and then that's it. And he will be defending why that is the best thing for the tournament setting to do, as it has been up until this point. Jay, on the other hand, will be arguing for the last round, which is how Majestics does it, and it has seen some play in the competitive scene as a result of Majestics runs tournaments, in which when last round is called, then you resolve things in such a way that each player gets one last turn, and the final round ends on the end of player 2. So, is that clear for everyone?
Other than the fact that these things were assigned and in no way reflect our actual opinions.
Yes, that is that should be stressed. The idea here is to allow us to argue without hurting each other's feelings, because we're not necessarily speaking from our heart so much as we're speaking from our mind. And I think that is an important thing to be able to do, and feel that we have the safety to be able to make a point, whether it be our own or not, and try to make it work. So I'm going to start with 90 seconds on the clock for Mike, and he's going to defend last action as the way that we should end our HeroClix tournaments. Mike, take it away.
Well, with so many changes in rules on a regular basis, why throw in another one? Right now, as it stands, the tradition is that when last action is called in big tournaments, that means you finish your current action. It ends after you roll those dice and figure out what's actually happening. So my argument for last action is that it's traditional, is that it saves a lot of time, because as far as I understand it, last round will mean that you could have an additional 10 or 15 minutes tacked on to the end of any given game, which actually deters the progress of the tournament at large. I think the whole point is to make things neat, to wrap things up cleanly, and move on to the next round. That's my argument for last action.
Alrighty. Didn't even use all your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have thrown a straw poll in the chat for you to get your own opinions in. I don't know how active the chat is right now, but I want to get you guys in on the conversation. I want to hear your opinions in the chat and get your direct opinion through that straw poll that I just linked in the chat just now.
All right, Jay. So you were recently at the U.S. Nationals, Rock Nationals, in which they did this last, well, you have Worlds as well, but I was thinking the U.S. Rock Nationals is where we actually did a last round system. And so you got to know it quite well, having done very well in that tournament. So from your experiences there, and also just from your ability to defend something, which may or may not be your actual opinion, tell us why last round is the right way.
As opposed to the current system of last action, last round has quite a few benefits, including the ability to not just stall out the last few minutes of the game, because in the current system, the rule is, as I recall, 10 or less minutes. So once that announcement can be made, the person whose turn it is can just take the game into their own hands and stall their way through to the point where the opponent has no chance to do anything because all the power is in their hands, whereas the last turn system can even things out a little and discourage, I guess, inappropriate play insofar as stalling is concerned, as well as having other benefits. So,
all right. So now I'm just going to reset my timer here because you only get 60 seconds for this next one, and this is basically your rebuttal. So on the one hand, we've got Mike defending the fact that it's the traditional way. It's already a complex enough game. We don't necessarily need to make further changes. Last action allows greater control of time when you're actually organizing a tournament. And on the other side, we've got the fact that people can't stall out the game. It gives a more fair opportunity for both people. So Mike, why don't you rebut what Jay has to say?
Well, I mean, very simply, I think that last round completely changes the game of Heroclix. I think that it means that people will essentially plan in such a way that they'll end up with their coup de grace saved for that last round and just completely annihilate one or more characters during that particular turn. Essentially restructuring the game of Heroclix at large. That to me is catastrophic. That to me is something much larger than what needs to be done. That is a hammer where a surgeon's scalpel is required. We don't need last round.
That's wonderful. Oh, I love it. A hammer where a scalpel is required. All right, Jay. So now you have an opportunity to fight back against Mike. Why is his argument for last action in the wrong?
I wouldn't say that just because something is the way it is and has been. I wouldn't really call that an argument in and of itself as much as just defending the thing without merit necessarily. And as far as last turn is concerned, I also feel that it allows for a more strategic set of plays where you get the chance to actually get a couple turns in where you're not focused on the time as much as the game itself, and you can make more strategic plays and think things out. Like in my game against Kevin, where we actually took the few minutes to just tally up the points and see who was actually winning, to see who needed to do what. Whereas with last action, you can just have a bad situation where the person who's currently playing the game gets to dictate how the rest of the game goes, where they can just make it only their turn with the opponent not able to do anything in retaliation.
All right, and that's your time. Okay, guys, well, we've gone over all kinds of different things. I'm going to give you 30 seconds on the clock to make one last statement. This can be whatever you want. It can be to either further your own point, to bring up a new point, to rebut something that someone else has said, but close out your argument for us. Mike, we're going to start with you. 30 seconds on the clock.
Thank you, Tom. In closing, I'd simply like to state that I use last action to win all of my games. Or to stall out, encourage roll-off. So please, North America, don't take away my preferred method of play.
Not keep my composure.
This is such a good idea. That's beautiful. All right, Jay, over to you. 30 seconds on the clock. Last thoughts. Go for it.
I've just been in too many games against Mike where he's just stalled me out the last 5 minutes, and I'm sick of it. And we really need to change. We need to change how things are going. We need to change how things are done. We need to tear the man down.
Oh, in the name of pain.
In the name of personal attacks, I attack you.
Well done, guys. Well, I wish that we had a more, I wish that I had a snappy way to close out the segment, but frankly, I think you guys did a good enough job.
You're making my face rain.
They were pretty snappy, to be brutally honest.
Yeah, that was good. I like that a lot. All right, those of you listening at home, this is a big argument, and I'm glad of the fact that Mike and Jay gave us a little bit of humor to round that out, because we argue about so many things so passionately, sometimes in forums and so forward, where tone control can't really be enforced, that it can sometimes get quite nasty and become quite a cesspool. This is a game that gives us a lot of pleasure and a lot of fun, and while this is a particularly important issue within that game, it is important for us to not realize that, or it's important for us to realize that if we start to lose the thread of this being an enjoyable experience, we're losing the point of the game. Thank you both for your debate, and that was Tom's debate.
Thank you very much for your debate. The chat is quite in action. Thomas Casturin, I know who you are, Thomas, said Mike for world president. 2016. KJ
flag in the background here.
KJ definitely enjoyed the classic closing arguments, and I did remind him that we have been watching their elections.
Yes,
but
true.
I did put up the straw poll to get people's opinions, and this is quite the polarizing issue. As the straw poll currently sits, I'm not even kidding. I'm going to show you guys 50-50.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So
that's
exactly
crazy.
even. So this is going to be one of those things a lot of people are going to be arguing, I'm sure, for a long time. Hopefully, something does happen. I say bring back survival points. No, I'm just kidding. Never bring back survival.
Oh man, what are you talking about?
No, worthless. Actually, no, because then I'd start playing. I'd start stalling out with what's his name, the High Evolutionary. And then I would win with 315 points of survival points.
That's wrong. Everything's wrong.
I'm, of course, just kidding. Never bring back survival points. They were the worst idea ever because they just added more addition to the end of the game. So, anyway.
Mike, you said you have something to add?
Yeah. I think that last round is actually a really good idea, but it needs to be timed. I think that would really round it out nicely.
Yeah. A couple of people threw the idea of chess clocks, and some games have been implementing chess clocks. I believe there's apps you can get for that. I don't think there's an actual physical chess clock because people say they're cheap, and then I go actually shopping for them online.
No, they're not cheap. Nope,
they ain't cheap. And the ones that are cheap are going to break after 3 uses, and then
they're a niche item. It's hard to get niche items for cheap.
So maybe if everybody agrees to an app that is the only app open on the table for a little bit, sure, at your venue, give that a try and let me know how that works. Because I think there is chess clock apps that you can get, no problem. So, I put that out to the community. Give me your ideas on that one. And in the meantime, I'm going to take 1 minute to pull up the monthly OP Kit Team week. We're taking a change to the monthly OP Kit Team. Instead of listening to all of us throw teams at you guys, one of us is going to build a team, and then everybody else is going to rip it apart or compliment it or whatever they want to do with it. And I've decided I'm going to be the first victim of it, and I've made myself a nice subtle team with the Black Bat. Now, before we get into what my team is, let's talk about Black Bat very briefly. Black Bat, of course, is one of the 3 Black Bat girls. This one's Cassandra Cain. She's 75 points, 3 range Batman ally. She's got what you see here on the dial with a special power on 3 of her clicks. She's also got a trait and improved movement. Improved movement is ignores characters. She's got the Batman family, Batman Inc., Gotham City, Justice League Elite, and Martial Artist keywords. Real name is Cassandra Cain, so you can't really use her with the Batman ID or Batgirl ID card unless it has Cassandra Cain, but I doubt it does. Anyway, we move to her trait. Her trait is Flurry, Leap, Climb, and Super Senses. Pretty good collection of powers there. And then she's got a special attack power on her last 3 clicks. At the beginning of your turn, Black Bat can use Smoke Cloud as a free action, but may only place 1 hindering terrain marker. So free action Smoke Cloud. I mean, basically, it's to put it on herself to use the Batman team ability.
Yeah, that's the point.
To maximize. Now, what did I decide to go with? And currently, with the Rock entering limited season, we're going to use a Rock limited format. Though, guys, just a heads up, the WizKids Opens do fall during Rock limited format. They are not following that Rock limited format. They are using full resources and everything. Anyway, so we move now to my team. My team starts, of course, with the Black Bat. And then I threw on the Chase Michelangelo from TMNT Series 1. He's got Charge, special attack power that gives him Flurry. And whenever he hits with an attack, I put an action token on the opposing character. He's also Indomitable, 18 defense. And he's got a trait, shell-to-shell defense. Michelangelo can use stealth. If Michelangelo is adjacent to a character named Raphael, Donatello, or Leonardo, he can use impervious. And then he's got, when Michelangelo hits one or more opposing characters after actions resolve, Michelangelo can move up to 2 squares automatically, breaking away, and then may make a close attack targeting a character he has not attacked this turn. I teamed him up with Raphael. Also has got the shell-to-shell defense to give them, of course, basically traded impervious as long as they're next to each other. Include the advanced turtle technique when Raphael, same thing where you can move around. But Raphael comes with Flurry and deals penetrating damage when making a close combat attack. Also note, he does start with 2 clicks of Empower. I've, of course, also got a Jean Grey to facilitate nonsense. And an Atomica for the Jason factor on dice rolls.
Sure. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you guys see what this does, but I'll just kind of point it out there. Jean Grey, free action TKs a Ninja Turtle. Then power action TKs a Ninja Turtle. And then the first Ninja Turtle to attack will be Raphael, leading in with his penetrating damage, followed by Michelangelo using the Empower from Raphael. Hopefully enough damage has been dealt from the 4 potential damage on Raphael to do a ton of damage. Or it could be even more if you do pull off that the trait, though, will be 1 additional on top of the Flurry if you're lucky. And then, of course, Michelangelo follows up for a potential 8, followed by a possible another 3 damage if you keep him next to Raphael after making that move. And then, throwing some action tokens as well, which could possibly, you know how this works. And then follow it up finally with Black Bat on the next turn with another power action TK from Jean Grey to, ensue some more nonsense. It's honestly, I think Atomica doesn't really get up there and probably would do a little better with a Mephisto to get those props, but I couldn't fit Mephisto in there. Do you guys see what I was getting at? Or
Yeah,
I see what you're getting at.
I would say Nightwing instead of Atomica, actually, so that you can.
Yeah, it might actually be
successive attacks. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Atomica
depletion modifier, because you're doing a lot of attacks anyway. So you don't really. Prob's a little bit excessive. Plus, she's not in range to be able to do it if you're going to be TKing out far enough, etc. So might as well do outsiders. It looked like you were trying to build a martial artist team, and then you gave up at the end.
Well, here's
there's 3 martial artists, and then
it's a great keyword, but it just doesn't get there.
No, it doesn't.
You know what I mean?
Mobility. You're right. You're totally right. Yeah. But it's a neat little team. I like it.
Yeah. Jay?
Subtle.
have I ever built anything subtle? Just throwing that out there. Tom, did you have anything to add on?
I like it. I'm a little afraid the Black Bat gets left behind the line a little bit in in the construction of it. I like Atomica, A, because I love Prob, and B, because I love the fact that she can be carried up so that when Black Bat does join the goings on, that she can bring a Prob controller with her. On the other hand, you kind of want to get her out there first, possibly as a little piece of bait with Atomica standing next to her, so as to encourage people to get into range so that you can then do the double turtle attack. I feel like Black Bat's the one doing the least work on the team, but if that work is getting your opponent into range for some TURTLE power, then more power to you.
I do also want to point out that there are situations where Black Bat will be the first one to go out ahead of Raphael, and that'll be a situation where my opponent may have super senses and shape change.
Hey, I love
Battle Fury and Precision Strike.
I love the fact that she's the first one to have both. I think that she's a great choice for an amalgam moving forward, because it's hard to find characters that have both of them as printed powers. Even the old Drax had Precision Strike as part of his special power. So the fact that she's got both as actual printed powers is just fantastic.
And KJ Foster did want to point out that I will make no friends with that team. And Mike is ramping it up more. Oh man. Oh, but yeah, that was I always want to go straight to Raphael and Michelangelo as a combination, because for some reason they made those two chases just work so well together. That just a mass number of attacks comes out of the two of them. It's so mouth-watering to me. And they're just, if they do hit, their hits are really, really effective. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you guys very much for your comments on the team and your notes. Next week, Jay will be taking the lead on the Barbara Gordon version of Batgirl for his team, and we'll get a chance to talk about that next week. But in the meantime, this whole streamlining is actually really worked. Mm-hmm. It has lowered our runtime, as it appeared, leading into the fan questions. Though that you guys tend to take it to the wall for us. I feel I'm a little worried because I believe Chris Stockhouse may be sick or out because he is not commenting this week. But I think he mentioned something about it last week. I'm not sure. I'd have to check the comments on that one. But all that said, we're going to lead in with any questions that will have a quick answer to them. And one of them did come up in the chat, and KJ Foster asked if we're coming to Detroit. And I believe he was referring to the WKOs. And I believe the WKO in Warren, Michigan, is that November 11th or is 12th. That November 5th? That's the 12th.
Yeah, the week after. Yeah.
That is my daughter's birthday party, unfortunately. I can't make that. The way my wife organizes, she needs backup. So I won't be there. I don't know. I can't speak for the other guys. What about you guys?
I'm planning on being
there. I'll be there.
I'm planning on it. Yep.
All right.
I made all my reservations and whatnot.
3 of the Metal Lab are going all the way to Warren, Michigan to play in a US WKO. So, boom. There it is. I will be playing in the Ottawa one on November 5th. And it's probably looking like the same team I played at Rock Worlds. And I will have to hold myself back from other things. More on that later in the week.
I'll also be going to Rochester for sure. That's already planned. That's on my birthday.
That's awesome.
What is Rochester?
The 19th.
The
week after.
19th.
It's the week after.
That is
3 weeks in a row.
That is the weekend of Amber's birthday. Not doing that.
I'm gonna try.
Otherwise, I don't think Divorced with Clicks has the same ring to it. So. Oh man! But we'll move next to Thomas Kusturin, who asks, "What's your favorite idea and name for an amalgam as per Night Lantern's trait?" And this one's pretty. He came up with a pretty clever one on his own. One of his favorites is combining a Batman with Howard the Duck to get Darkwing Duck.
Nice.
And preferably, I like to hear some fun combos versus actual power combos. I hadn't actually thought of any of the combinations you can pull off with Night Lantern to kind of make a goofy thing like that. Tom, have you put any thought into that?
Well, goofy ones, sure. I wanted to go into a Golden Age tournament and take the Hulk and put him as an amalgam with Happy Hogan so that I've got Hulk Hogan. But in terms of actual combinations, I'm trying to remember now. I figured out whoever was under 120 points and had both Running Shot and Invincible. I thought I found somebody that had both Running Shot and Invincible as an amalgam for Nick Fury. I know that's wildly straightforward, but Nick Fury with Running Shot when he's on the offensive and Invincible to protect himself would be pretty worth it. But I just can't remember who I found. I may not have actually found anybody with Invincible and went to Impervious instead, but I found something.
Mm-hmm. Mike, have you put any thought into this one?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Mike's like, I got like 3 of them.
No, I only have 1, but it's ridiculous. Here we go. So here's my team. It is a little over points, but
yeah.
Swamp Thing is the amalgam in this particular case. It's actually right on the money. And we have Swamp Thing on Beast Boy because Beast Boy can turn into a donkey, and then we have Swamp Ass.
Mike just broke my headphones. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
It was Bebop, by the way, and I think I even mentioned it on this show when we talked about Bebop. That I wanted to use Bebop with Nick Fury as an amalgam to give him the option of either Running Shot or Invincible.
Not bad.
Pretty good, yeah. Jay, have you put any silliness thoughts into this?
You could do Doctor Doom and the Doctor, and you'd have Doctor Doctor. That'd be funny.
Sweet, the Thompson twins. I just want to do all Thompson twins right now. Can't you see I'm burning, burning?
Oh my god.
I'm trying to come up with something with the weird, and I just can't. Super weird.
Don't force it, man. Don't force it.
I can't force it.
Just go with the weird and Blind Al. Weird Al.
Weird Al. There we go.
There you go.
You could do, what was it?
You guys look like a rickety old lady, anyway.
You could do Superman and Freak from Invincible Iron Man for Super Freak.
Nice.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Freak. Super Freak. Super Freak.
Super Freak.
Oh, has anybody got who's got last name James? Because then we could go Rick Jones, last name James, Rick James.
The trickster's name is Jesse James, but that's
there we go. Rick James.
Oh, nice.
It's not like it would never work as a functional amalgam, but you could also take one of the old Countdown Click figures like Loki, and then put it on the Final Frontier from the Iron Maiden set, and you've got the final countdown.
You can go pretty crazy with some of this. I honestly am not that creative. I wish I was a little bit more creative in regards to this, but it sounds like we can have a lot of fun. We might even turn this into a segment. I don't know.
That'd be awesome. Yeah,
that would just be an awesome tournament.
Yeah, that would be a great tournament. You have to just everybody has a night lantern combination, but you have to make a funny pun with it. Yeah. We'll call it. It has to be a Father's Day tournament.
Yes. I can see Warehouse next year being a fun place to go.
Father's Day tournament. Where is everybody? It's only me and Paul. Oh, and Tom. Why everybody's just leaving? I don't understand. All right. Next up, Matt Wallace. What's up, guys? This week I was curious about what advice you might have on getting a competitive team together. I have a few guys at my local store that wanted to get into competitive play, but the majority of the store consists of self-proclaimed casual players. They are all a great group of guys at the store, but they always put restrictions on team building and don't have a chance to cut loose and play competitively. Locally, what I did was we basically created this little underground fight club of competitive players where we all kind of started chit-chatting competitive online. And then eventually we all started meeting in the dark dungeon of my apartment. And then eventually we all started playing. And then I met a guy with a wonderful voice named Tom, and the rest was magical. You can't force it. If they don't want to be competitive, they don't want to be competitive. Discuss the appeal of competitive play, because I'm not going to lie, I find the competitive environment of players outside of the game are all fantastic people. Inside of the game, everybody's a little intense. Everybody's trying to get the win. But when after the game is done and everybody relaxes for a second, you shake hands and you start chit-chatting, and if it's Rock World, you go for a beer. It's really about the environment, and I can't sell that enough. But when it comes to putting a competitive team together, desire has to be there, and then somebody has to be kind of the I don't want to say like the captain, but the leader of getting it, like explaining the team dynamic, because a lot of time when it comes to these games, these collectible games, people don't understand the idea of a team. In Magic the Gathering, when it comes to a team, it's a bunch of people who practice together. In Magic, because there's money, they split the pot. Because there's no money in Heroclix, you don't split the pot. You just help each other get better, bounce on each other's backs. Somebody becomes a library of figures, and everybody's library is kind of open to everybody. But I'll never loan anybody a Faust. I'm just kidding, Mike. You can borrow it. But I'm going to torment you about it the entire time.
I already found another one anyway.
I would rate that one. And then give that guy mine.
Right.
But no, it's about just building a small little community of guys that work together, try to build each other up, try to play the game better, give each other advice. And that's really the best way I can describe it and best way I can sell it. And when it comes to getting a team, it's about desire and want. But don't be like, I know the 4 Points Gamers guys, they don't actually live near each other. Ed and family live in like the Jersey area, if I understand it, in the New York area. Scott lives in Michigan. These guys are everywhere in the Northeast. So
yeah.
That could be a thing. I don't know. Mike, you look like you got something to just jump in there with.
I do, yeah. I mean, there's the Skype option, right? I would think that the guys you just mentioned probably play some Skype games together. I know that there are Skype tournaments that start up through various groups like Heroclix Smack Talk and a few others that are on Facebook. So join as many Facebook groups as you can, because something will come up on your feed that you're interested in. Plus, you can post your own stuff. You can say, hey, I'm looking to play with some new players. I'm looking to get into the competitive scene, etc. I'm a nice dude. I don't bite. I may have scabies, but I don't have herpes, and it'll be fine. Yeah, really, it's just about reaching out and using your social skills. Generally speaking, in our play group, if one person is not in that mode of wanting to build and everything else, someone else is, and it kind of and in that case someone else is if that person isn't, and it's a cumulative environment. So if someone's not into it and another person is, it kind of gets them back into it. I guess that's my point in a roundabout way. But overall, I think that focusing on some of the social aspect of the game along with the competitive will really help things congeal for you.
Mm-hmm. Tom, anything you want to add there?
I have nothing particular to add to it because I think you guys have summed it up quite nicely. So I'll add a plug, which is a show we don't mention as often as we might, which is one of the icons of Heroclix podcasting, is the Starting Over podcast, run by Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and he's focused to several episodes on putting together teams because he's worked very hard on his team of Phoenix Nest, and they've had some good success, and he has insights into that. So for more information, check that out.
Okay.
Not too much to add. It's just you gotta want it. It's not a thing you can just do. There's also a fair amount of commitment that you have to get into, so it's hard to analyze the competitive environment and dedicate time to it if you don't really want to. So
yeah. And don't let the stuff drive you. Like, don't go to an event, a big event, competitively with your newly formed team with the idea that you're going to win it all, or that you're there because you want the things that they have to offer. It's really about a cumulative experience, and you will get better. Practice makes your team better.
With the exception of the $100 and the dice I got, I really didn't walk out with a whole lot of figures, and I was okay. I mean, okay, $100, all right.
Hey, that's cool, dude. You're a pro now. Hey, you're pro.
Yeah,
paid to play Heroclix.
We are all pro.
It barely covered like a quarter of the airplane trip. Let's not kill it. So like, it's just gonna go back into more Heroclix, and that's really, I mean, I wasn't a driving force. I just wanted to be there and compete. Some people have that competitive. They want to go. They want to try. Some people are afraid of losing in that environment, and they don't understand the idea of losing and then coming back and doing it again. And that's really like what you got to stress. You got to find the types of people that are about that, and that's really all there is to it. But next up, we have George Himes. With the dwindling number of resources, do you think we will ever see a resourceless meta? I do believe it's on the horizon. If the current growth rate of resources maintains, which is the only new ones we have seen recently have been the Quinjet itself and the Punisher van. Those are attached to specific vehicles. So, because those are attached to those specific things, I think if there is going to be a resource, it's going to be that vastly like specific to things. So you might see a character come with some form of a resource attached to them, or you might see it attached to vehicles and be like a part of the vehicle that moves a dial on the vehicle. We might just see these equipment start to take over that spot, which is, not a problem. Resources were great. Resources were fun. But it's, it's a here or there. Some people liked them. Some people didn't like them. Some people were violently against them. Some people thought they ruined the game. Some people thought they added variety to the metagame. It depends on who you ask. But ultimately, I do see a future without them based on the current growth rate. And I don't have a problem with that necessarily. But Jay, what do you think about that? Because I know you're kind of on this.
It kind of depends on what your definition of a resource is. I mean, based on the trend of convention-exclusive retirement, we're going to have the Supreme Intelligence for years and years still. So that's not going away anytime soon. But then again, it's not really much of a game-changing resource as it gives You're realistically not going to get to the last power on that. So it's just a matter of a 12-point investment that gives you 2 powers, not dissimilar to an entity or whatnot. So you're going to have that. And again, the Punisher van only just came out. So technically, that's going to be around, not necessarily showing up. So as far as actual technicality of the question, it's not going to be for years and years. But outside of those, the resources that we're getting in actual sets are slowing down. So it's not like we're going to see a new huge thing that affects everything the way batteries might have or other resources. It doesn't look like that's happening. So I don't necessarily see the technically no resources environment happening, but it'll only be a matter of time before resources are just another thing that you build with your team, not a necessary thing. And even when they are on the teams, they won't be so game-breaking or impactful.
Okay.
So,
all right. Tom, anything you want to add on that?
No, I think that Jay's last statement sums it up perfectly. They may not go away entirely, but they will be an element of team building rather than an essential of team building.
Okay.
Good way of putting it. Great. Whatever your words were, they were better than mine. So, well
Good words, Jay.
Mike, you good with that too?
I liked the idea of amalgamated character plus resource, which is what Jason was commenting on in the beginning as well.
Yeah. And I want to throw in an extra Thomas question because he does have the silliest questions. If you had to choose one or the other, and I think this is just going to be for me and Tom, I can't let Mike and Jay answer this one. If you had to choose one or the other, would you have Mike or Jay become tyrant of the world? It's hard to say, but I'm not sure I like a world without soul, so I'm going to have to go with Jay.
I win!
Sneaks the ginger joke in there. Tom, what do you think?
God, dude. Yes, the world intolerant to the sun.
become tyrant of the world?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could still have sushi and stuff on Mondays, so I'm gonna go with Mike, I think.
Wait,
True.
what?
we have sushi together on Mondays.
But Tom, jazz music will be gone.
Sushi is my favorite food. You can have as much as you want, whenever you want.
Yeah,
Come on.
sushi's fine. It's like shrimp that's no good.
That's fair.
No pork.
Anyway, then I die because I like steam myself on that stuff. All right, next up, Mike Bockley. What is your current favorite map of the modern age, and what is your all-time favorite map? My all-time favorite is Classic Krakoa because silly. And my current favorite map is a hard tie between the 4 new rubber maps. I kind of like them, just not like these rubber maps, but they're pretty cool maps for the most part. And they all kind of have their own thing. But if I was to pick one of all of them, it would be The Office because it does. I played it against Tom for the sole fact that it doesn't force the game of Heroclix to be played. And it may, sometimes if you have a big barreling across the map strategy, it will just immediately shut it off and it will force the game to be played. And that's kind of why I like it. Tom, what are your two? What's your all-time favorite and current favorite modern?
It's a really hard thing to answer because so much of the maps that you like are dependent upon the team that you're choosing.
Yeah, really.
I would say thus, if I had to just choose a general favorite, it would be maps that just about any game can be fun and interesting on, regardless of what's out there. So my favorite of all time, still I go back years and years to, I think, the first or one of the first ever maps with printed terrain differences, and that was the Junkyard. The Junkyard was, I believe, from Collateral Damage. It is ages old, and it is the most fun, balanced, interesting combination of indoor-outdoor, blocking, hindering terrains. It looks great. It plays great. If you're a fan of the lineage of this game and you've never tried it out, then get a hold of it. And it's a great game to just teach somebody how to play Heroclix on. In terms of the current generation, I would say Avengers Tower from the Age of Ultron movie set is my favorite for much the same reason. It's got a combination of different elevations. It's got walls, hindering, blocking terrain. It's got some open air terrain, indoor, outdoor, a little bit of everything. You can use it strategically, and much like Jason was saying, it's a game. There's really no one takes the game away from you on that map. So at least you get to play a game when you're on that map, which is fun.
All right. Mike?
Since you guys have already kind of hit up on the regular, WizKids included maps, I'm going to go for a rock map.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like Assassin's Alley. It's a fantastic map, especially when it comes to preventing hypersonic attacks using plasticity, because it has so many elevations and so many just so many different ways to block movement. And disable your opponent from really moving around the map properly. And as these guys know, I like to play Heroclix and watch them not play Heroclix. So that's definitely in my my wheelhouse.
All right, Jay?
My all-time favorite map is probably for similar reasons to Tom, and because it is from the Hulk set and is Hulk related, I have to say that the Gamma Range is quite the little map.
It's a great.
It has a little smattering of everything on that map. And it has some pretty open stuff too, so you can get a good smackdown while also maneuvering around to make sure you don't get hit with a huge range attack right away. And the only patch of elevated terrain is on right next to one of the sides of the map. So if you choose that map, your opponent is not going to let you pick it for yourself. So it's not like you can just use it as a sniper's nest, because of course your opponent will realize that and take it. So it has just enough of everything to be interesting. I also love and detest my map that I got from the US Cup that is based on the TTC, but has USA just smacked right in the middle. But in terms of my actual answer, I really enjoy Danny the Street, just because I tend to play stuff. It just, when I put it on my Quinjet team, I know that it will not hurt me at all, and my opponents can be affected, or they cannot be affected. You never know. And it's
so
fun.
Funny. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's so funny because Danny the Street is Assassin's Alley with shenanigans.
Yeah.
It's interesting to just roll the map at the beginning of each of your turns and see how the game will be affected, because it does technically affect both players equally. And it's not like anybody who's competitively in the competitive scene and smart is going to not realize that it's a factor. So I don't see it shutting down a lot of stuff so instantly in the competitive scene. So I don't think it ruins the fun factor as much in that area, but it is also not a map I would play casually.
All right. So next up, oh man, all of a sudden, just nothing. Christopher Smotherman. Now that team abilities are starting to really mean something again, maybe more so than ever before, what are your thoughts on how the Spirit Foe set will have an impact on future meta? Will all the Spider-Man family characters copying TAs or ATAs like JSA, Sinister Syndicate, Batman Enemy, and gaining all these special effects from doing so? Do the Spider Chases all of a sudden become viable with characters like the Spider Knight teamed up with the Atom on a pass theme, giving everyone 20 defense against close attacks and a 21 from range? I think you kind of said it yourself. Pass theme team, best JSA team ability, copied by the Spider Knight with 21 at range. Have fun with that, guys. Oh, man, that one was kind of on the nose. Boom. Yeah, team abilities are back. Uncanny X-Men gave the X-Men team ability a bit of a bump on a certain number of characters, though that's probably not going to make a big splash soon enough. But the Sinister Syndicate we were already seeing make a splash with the classic or the OP Kit Doc Ock in conjunction with Speed Demon and Overdrive. Enough said, right? And then, of course, looking to this new set, the JSA team ability, this is going to be a meta that I don't survive well in, and it's a dice meta where you got to hit 21 defenses or 20 defenses, and I'm bringing Mephisto all the time now. I need to make these rolls 1,000 times. Whatever. My swarm teams are going to need all the dice rolls. I was going to get hit anyway. I'm playing a swarm team. My defenses are terrible. Do you guys have anything to add on? I mean, that seemed pretty straightforward.
No, I think that he kind of covered the question himself.
Yeah.
I was just gonna. It was interesting that we got that Kingpin for the Fast Forces who gets rid of the adjacency requirement for those team abilities, which can be helpful.
Yeah,
and then
really
we also saw today in the Scott Porter unboxing that we saw the Calculator, who does the same thing for Batman enemies. Maybe we'll see another with the JSA. So looks like WizKids is trying to make those team abilities more viable by loosening some of the restrictions that come with running them. So
if my Spider Knight can be 8 squares away from my Atom or my Hour Man, come on. I can sit back safely, you say? Sure, why not? I think I can manage that, guys. Wow. But yeah, so it's out there. And last of the straightforward ones, Mike Fedor doesn't really have a question this month, but he wanted to throw in a congratulations on reaching 100 episodes of the Meta Lab and Metafix. Michael is, of course, one of our longest running patrons. Sorry, not one of, our longest running patron. He was the first patron, and he is still a patron of the channel. We do appreciate your support, and do appreciate seeing you on a regular basis on the patron hangout. Incidentally, November is just around the corner. And that, oh man, why do they always hold the tournaments on the patron hangout nights? November 4th will be our next patron hangout. And of course, myself and Amber will be joining our patrons to hang out, chit chat. You guys get to ask any questions of us. It could be about Heroclix. It could be about, I don't know, potatoes. I don't care. Ask us whatever because you guys are paying for it. And I do go on lengthy answers, so prepare yourself. And I do like to drink during it, which means my answers get longer and longer and more nonsensical as the night goes by. So I look forward to that.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, we've already thank you again for your support.
Absolutely.
I don't think. Oh, here we go. We do have one last question here. It looks like for the from the chat, and KJ Foster does go on to ask, what is the best figure to use on Isaac's zipline map?
Sloth.
There we go. Sloth.
What about the answer that is not Krang? Just the number 2 after Krang, because that's obvious.
I haven't actually seen the map yet.
You have to actively take a free action from each square to get to the next one, right? So you have to Justin him onto it, then take a free action, then go.
I would also like my first answer is Sloth because I love Sloth. Though if I'm being honest, then the best one is probably because of course the idea is that you get some. The reason I like Sloth is because he creates basically an area of effect, and so by moving him quickly across the map, then you can get your area of effect over there. So what I would ask the world is, can you think of a character that creates an area of effect that has the ability to essentially shut down the entire game and make you win? And that's probably the answer, Faust. So, yeah. Sadly, the answer is probably Faust. But I'd still say Sloth because I like fun.
Yeah. Mike?
I haven't seen the map yet, actually. I'll be perfectly honest. I can't wait to play it. If Tom, I think Tom, do you have a copy?
I don't know. I wish I could remember which map I got at Rock Worlds.
I'm almost positive they were hanging out for everything that involved the map that they were handing out.
Okay.
Map. So
I probably do is the answer to that question.
I'm actually looking at a review of the map right now. It looks really cool at first glance. I don't know what the orange stuff does yet, but I'm assuming it allows you, as you said, move around the map more easily.
Yeah. You can. There's multiple single pieces of elevated terrain that are also orange terrain. You
here it is.
That square. Take a free action and then move to one line. Like they draw a line to the next one, you can move to the next one.
11th place comes through again. So yes, I do have it. So we'll play on it.
Yeah, right, please. Let's do that on camera next week if you can.
Before we go gaggling about that, Jay, what do you think would be a great character on that map?
I guess I already technically said Krang, so I'm just gonna finish with that because I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Oh, I think that I would play your team, your Batgirl, or your Black Bat team. On that. There you go.
TK onto it, move onto it, free action onto it, then charge. Oh my God, it's in my face!
Actually, now that I think about it, the bomb Batman could be fantastic to just swing across the map like that.
Yeah, you can sidestep, then you sidestep again. Now you're on it. Take a free action. You're over there. Now I move.
That'd be fun with Devil Dinosaur too. Devil Dinosaur could not only get himself across a little faster than normal, but some of his slower moving pogs could all zipline in. I love the idea of Rockabilly Modocs on zip lines.
I also love the idea.
I
also potentially love the idea of playing like a ID card denial team where you just have the ID card character do the thing and then they zip line off the map.
Yeah, that's a good idea too.
I like that idea.
Yeah. Like,
the problem is adjacency. You'd have to have one that sidesteps onto it because they are elevated terrain, which means you can't just drop them on it.
Right. There are characters like the Green Arrow gets sidestep, and there are characters that can do it.
Who else can draw line of fire through other characters besides Arcade in the modern age right now?
What's
I
that?
don't feel like there are any in the modern age.
Like, sorry, what was the question? Was that shoot through characters? Or?
Yeah, basically they can draw a line of fire and count squares through other characters. I mean, the way that Arcade does on Arcade's Arena, the way that the old Professor X.
Oh, I see. You mean via them, not through them. Yeah.
Yeah, because that would be another one.
I think it's just Arcade. Because it used to be Phantom X, right?
Are you thinking of somebody, or are you just asking?
I'm asking. Because that would be good for that map. And speaking of what would be good on that map, characters that can do that would be good on that map.
Yeah.
I just can't think of modern age ones right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things you can pull off with it. I wish it was still Golden Age, because then I would immediately go to Brother Voodoo. You move on to one of them, free action on to the next one, and then take a free action mind control and have fun. But that's Golden Age, so it doesn't matter. But on that note, it's been a great episode, guys. Thank you guys for joining us.
Yes, it is.
Those of you watching live, those of you who are watching in the archive tomorrow, I am going to attempt to get a audio version of this together by Wednesday. We have something important to do tomorrow night. That's why I'm saying Wednesday, because I haven't figured out my upload platform or anything like that. So we're working on that, because it's been a high demand, is that audio version. So hopefully that gets sorted out very shortly, and we go from there. Of course, want to remind everybody that our sponsors are MajesticCCG.com. Check out the Apex Insiders at MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders for updates and regular articles. Jay's got a regular one, the Fringe figure, which should be coming out. I believe you have one this week, you said, or is it next week?
It was Element Man that was last week.
All right. So he's got an article up right now. Check it out at MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. As well, I want to thank HCRealms.com. Check out the shop there. And while you're checking out, put in your coupon code for 10% off your purchase. The coupon code, of course, is married. But on that note, guys, always remember, when it comes to playing this game, trying to get a little better, trying to get your team set up for the WKS, which are just around the corner, always remember that
practice
makes
your Mike, your order is the worst.
I know I'm the worst. Yeah.
Mike's order is like absolutely incorrect, and we went and screwed up the outro on that one.
Let's do it again.
Practice.
You know what? We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this in the order that Mike said, but we're gonna do it because it's Metal Lab 101. It's a new beginning for all of us. This is our second chance to get it right. Ready? So practice
makes
your
team
better.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you very much for watching live or on the archives.